I was like, whoa.
It's way too loud.
Ready. All right, we live. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Javon Manning. I'm a video producer. I've been doing it for about 7 years now. I actually work as a creative producer for Rocky Mountain PBS upstairs. And today we're just gonna be doing some post-production intensive stuff, basically video editing stuff. So we are live. We're live on YouTube, but I also got a couple people here in the studio with me. Yeah, so any questions you guys have, please feel free to ask. I don't know if you guys have read the write-up, but it is a little, it's a lot. So we only got an hour, so we're going to go through as much as we can, and then whatever we don't go through will be in part 2. Cool. All right, so first things first, we're going to go over the table of contents. So we got 4 things we're going to talk about. Well, 3 things. We'll do video editing principles, graphics and animations, and sound design. So all these will be, we're not going to get too deep into stuff, but we're going to get as deep as we can. We're going to go through as much as we can. Whatever we don't go through, there's obviously, you guys have your resource sheet, and then everybody online, you'll have one available to you as well that you can download, and you guys will be able to get this PowerPoint too. So anything we don't go over, you still have questions about, you can refer to this, and then of course we'll see in part 2. So let's just kind of jump right into it. So first things first, we got like our software. For me, like editing, really, it's literally just cutting out the bad parts and things that don't highlight the story. Whatever doesn't help the story, get rid of it. But editing is where you fine tune that. Filming is where you capture everything, and editing is where you really finalize the story. But I always say software doesn't matter. Use what is available to you. Use what you like. Use what works for you. So like these are 4 that we have. We got the Adobe Creative Cloud. We got DaVinci Resolve, Sony Vegas, and Final Cut Pro. I'm a avid user of both DaVinci Resolve and the Adobe Creative Cloud. I use them for different reasons. I'm not a fan of Final Cut Pro, but I know a lot of my videographer friends are, and a lot of people I know are. And then Sony Vegas, that I don't know anybody that uses it, but it is one of the other editing softwares that I have seen and heard people talk about using. I'm not a fan. I just don't like the interface. But like I said, I'm a Creative Cloud user, mainly because the Creative Cloud offers a plethora of apps that all talk to each other at one time. So I can literally have Premiere open and then skip over to After Effects and go over to Audition. And they all seamlessly work into one project. I can save them to one folder. Everything is very seamless when it comes to it. So like Premiere Pro, it's my main video editor. It's where I start the project and where I have everything in there and organized. Then After Effects is where I have like my motion graphics and text and different things like that for a little more like intensive effects, because After Effects has a lot of different effects, a lot of different motion graphic stuff, and you just do a little more with animation and effect making in After Effects. And Audition that's just where I edit the audio. It's Premiere does have its own audio stuff in it built in, but like if you want a little more just like this is for audio editing, Audition is the piece that you can use. And yeah, so we'll jump kind of right in cutting techniques. So there's actually like 18 different kind of cuts. I'll make sure you guys all get a visual representation, and it's in your resource sheet. But I mean, the main 4 that I deal with, the main 4 I always hear about are L cuts, J cuts, jump cuts, and hard cuts. So an L cut is basically a split edit video, or split in the edit where the video transitions to a new scene while the audio is in the previous shot. So it just kind of makes that seamless, like you'll hear something, you'll see something else, but you're still hearing something from something else. And then the J cut is actually the opposite of that. It's where the audio. Okay, excuse me. It's the opposite of an L cut, where the audio from the next clip is starting before the video from the previous clip concludes. So it's just the exact opposite of an L cut. So yeah, then the hard cut it's the most basic. It's literally just going from one shot to the next. It's it's the most used. It's often used. Sometimes people call it a smash cut. I never understood why it's called a smash cut, but it can be, and it's in a lot of scripts that I've seen. But straight up, that's just a straight just line that when you put a clip next to it and it goes to another clip, that's a hard cut. A jump cut is a technique that basically jumps ahead or backwards in a film. It really, you use it to indicate the passage of time, and basically, so like a jump cut will be essentially like it's daytime and you start seeing someone doing something, and then it jumps to nighttime. It's like, well, now we know that an entire day has gone by and it's nighttime now, and they're in a different area. And you don't want to use these too much. At least I don't want to use them. I don't like to use them too much because it can get very jarring in the video. It can get very jarring in your film. So you just kind of want to limit that, but you also want to use it. Like if you're going to use it effectively. So like if we want to go straight from day to night, just know in your day scenes, you want to have a part in the scene that directs them mentally to where they're going to go next. And then when you do that jump cut, it will make sense. It won't be so jarring. Yeah. So, of course, let's talk about editing decisions. Now that we know a little bit of our cuts, you want to make decisions based off the actual situation, not just because you feel like it needs to go to the next thing. Like everything in editing is always you're making a decision based off of the story and the situation at hand, and not just making it to where like because it may look cool or you think it makes sense here. It's like, no, let's look at it. And usually for myself, there's 3 questions I ask to help me determine what my story is and when to make those cuts. And it's usually like, what is happening? Where is it happening? Who's there when it's happening? And of course, you can ask like, why is this happening? And things like that. But I like to leave those up to the viewer and to like, I like to leave that in the mental story. But main 3 things, just like what's happening. So like an example is like, there's somebody is running. So, okay, somebody's running. And then where is that happening? They're running down a hill. And then who's there when it's happening? Well, it's just this person, but he's running in a neighborhood with all his friends and they're all at home. Then it's like, okay, well now I know I want to have a shot of him running down the hill. I want to see a shot of his friend's home, and I want to see a shot of what this trail looks like that he's running on. So then you can kind of determine where you want to make those cuts, because then it's like, do I want to have a long shot of like the houses, or does that need to be a shorter cut? And then you can get into like the weeds of what you're doing when it comes to what cuts you want to make. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. That kind of leads me into pacing too. So when you're cutting, you want to control the pacing and the rhythm and the timing. So pacing is really just you're controlling the speed, the flow, and like all the emotional impact of what's going on in the video. So like if you want to do like based off of what you're editing, that's how you know how fast you're going to make your cuts or when you make your cuts, because it's not always about just speed, because sometimes even in certain situations you want to have slower, more dramatic clips, but you also still are in a fast-paced thing. Like there's still like Fast and Furious is a great example. Like there's still, just because that movie is very fast-paced and a lot of action is going on, they still hold shots in certain areas that just need to be exacerbated. So it's not always about the speed. It's just you want to think about the pacing of the edit and the viewer before that kind of thing. And then general like genre influences are like action. They have a lot of quick cuts. Drama has longer, and then comedy has like right in the middle. It's like action. Yes, you do have a lot of quick cuts, but you still want to have more dramatic cuts because, like, I know, I know one of the most ridiculous scenes I've ever seen was like when Dom like wrapped a cable around his car's wheel and then like does this, somehow flies off the side of a hill and drives his car into a helicopter. That's a long shot, but it's like there's a lot of action that happened in that. But they exacerbate like how long that takes, and they slow things down. You even hear like the music behind it; it gets slower, things like that. And although it's an action scene, that's where you use a dramatic kind of cut. And then there's drama scenes where they use quick things because like somebody is bringing the knife up and like they bring the knife back. Like you want to see the immediate reaction of the person that is about to get stabbed in the video. So it's all in the timing. It's all in like what the specific situation is. But this is a good foundation to just understand like this is how you make those decisions. So let me go on to the next slide. So like, yeah, these are kind of our key techniques for effective pacing. Is like shot duration variation. So you want to like have a mixture of shots because that's what's going to give you that dynamic rhythm. And then of course what I mentioned before, like match your editing pace to your emotional pace, your emotional beats. Like if you want to build tension, you want faster stuff. If you want reflection, if you want to like really want them to sit in a certain emotion, then that's when you have a slower stuff. But you pick the situation based off what it is you're specifically doing. And then of course you want to have a breathing pace because like you don't want to just go willy-nilly and like have all this information, because you still want to give your viewer time to process what it is you're giving to them in the situation. So yeah, that's when sound and things can be used too, because if you synchronize it with audio, you can use music beats, you can use sound effects, you can use dialogue, and the different types of cuts that we mentioned before. So yeah. Let's talk about a little bit emotional impact of your rhythm. So tension and release, you want to create waves of anticipation. So tension would be like in horror movies are a good example. They build tension by focusing on an object that you may not particularly think has anything to really do with the story, but because they're focusing and you see someone walking down like a dark hallway and they're focused on the door in the hallway, you think something's going to come out of the door. Nothing happens there. Then you folks, they're in the shower and you think something's going to happen to them in the shower. And then you hear something go along and it's like, okay, what is going to happen? Like now you're like, what is going to happen? Like you have all this tension built in. Now you're anticipating for something to happen. And then they release the tension. Like they get out of the shower, everything's fine. And then the killer's standing right there in the doorway. And then it's like, whoa, now you're scared. Now you're shocked because all that anticipation you built waiting for something to happen, you were expecting something to happen in a certain place. That tension was released. Now you're relaxed. Now you're now you're susceptible to the jump scare, because then like now like the tension's been released, so now you've relaxed your shoulders in the theater, and then boom, jumps out. Like kind of like, I guess a good recent movie would be like Smile 2. I don't know if anybody's seen that movie. So Smile 2 was, in my opinion, a great movie, but like it's a mental horror too, but it's an actual like monster, but it's a mental horror. There's a scene where she's like running to her house, she's freaking out. She just left this bar and she's like, somebody's telling her all these different things. She's processing all these different things at one time. She gets home, she drinks some water, and like she's turning on these lights. She's had like this emotional breakdown, and like she finally calms down and she's like, okay, it's time to like clean up all this glass. It's time to get myself together. I'm gonna go change clothes. And like as she walks into her closet, she turns on a light and there's like her room is literally full of people smiling, looking crazy at her. And it's like, Then you're like, what is going on? But nothing's happening because they're just staring. And then you're expecting them to like rush her, and she like leans. She leans, and they're like following her. So you're expecting something to happen, and then like she slowly steps back, and then she starts running, and then the music picks up and everything, and all this stuff happens. And yeah, that's a good example of just like rhythm in a story. And then of course, yeah, like internal rhythm, like you want to capture characters' emotions. So like in Smile, you want to see that she's scared too. You want to see that like she's going through something and like she's trying to process it with you. And then same thing with your viewer for external rhythm is like the physical pacing of it makes sense for its specific situation. And then, like I mentioned earlier too, audio crescendos is like that's when the music picks up, the music gets louder or it gets quieter or different based on the situation. It goes up, it goes down, it comes in, it goes out. That's yeah. And then some key tips at the bottom is just emotions take time. Always allow a little bit of time for your shots and things to breathe, even in specific, like even in different situations. Like always give yourself some time. Watch it back through because when you watch it back through, you'll say, "Is this shot a little too long? Is this shot a little too short?" Then just know. But yeah, that's why you want to get good shots. You want to make sure you're working with good shots in the first place because then you have enough time in those different things to make sure what's going on. And yeah, of course, like test different options too. Like you want to, like, don't be afraid to like, I'm gonna try this shot instead, or I'm gonna do this one instead, or I'll try this. I'll add some music here, different things like that. And then yeah, the right pace depends on your story, your audience, and the message. So whatever message you're trying to send, whatever story you're trying to tell, it's always going to depend on that. So I know that's not very like cut and dry, but like it always depends on what it is you're specifically trying to do with what you are filming. So yeah, and of course, well executed pacing should feel invisible. Like you go to a movie, I know all of us have seen a really good movie. You go to a movie, you don't really even realize until the end of the movie, you're like, dang, that was a great movie. And you didn't notice any of the cuts, you didn't notice like anything that was going on. You just were completely immersed in the movie. That's how you want people to be in all things that you're editing. Because great editing, it's invisible to the viewer, everything's visible to the editor. So like you're gonna be like, dude, I saw that there, I saw this there, but they're gonna be like, really? I didn't see any of that. So just be aware of that when you're editing stuff too. Like people won't notice what you notice when you're editing things, and that's a good thing. So now let's talk about organizing our project. I'm actually going to show you guys my project. So I'm going to show you guys an example of just like how you want to organize it. So these are actually lineups that I do for PBS. When you're editing, you just want to have like very clean setups of the project. So like you want to have your folders of everything you specifically need. You want to have your sequences in one place, and I'll get more into detail about sequences and folders and things like maybe in the second one, but for now it's just a general overview. So like these, I have anywhere from 8 to 50 of them to do. So I don't want to spend thousands of hours in my editing software. I want to be able to get in and open it up and put everything in. So a good example is like I have my asset beds folder. This is where all the shows that are going to be in here. So let's actually just watch one through.
Next, so like Antiques Roadshow is discovering the hidden treasures.
You'll see.
You look like you're awfully excited.
This is a promo for a show.
I wear this like junk jewelry.
Just made my day.
No.
Whoa!
I know you guys can't hear it, but it's just kind of like it's a promo for it.
Don't miss our visit to Albuquerque next time on Antiques Roadshow.
And then there's motion graphics at the end. So this is a very basic example, but it's like if I have to repetitively do that for each other show that I'm going to promote, I don't want to continuously do the same task over and over. I want to like do one task and that goes across different shows. So like in my asset beds, I'll have show one and it has the version of the 30-second version of the promo and the 20-second version of the promo. So once I put these in this, and this is called a nested sequence, something else we'll get into detail with, but like in this, like I have both of these shows. So instead of me going and dragging one 30-second one in one sequence and making another sequence and making a 20-second one, make one sequence, drag them both in, and then now I have that done. And I can just do that for each of the shows that I'm going to put in there. Then I got my tag sequences. So this would be you hear like the Monday night on Rocky Mountain PBS, and you see the actual graphic of Monday and one for tonight. So this is another nested sequence along with an After Effects motion graphics sequence in there. So it's another one that it's like all the motion graphic happens, all the sound happens in one of these. And yeah, so instead of me individually making that every time, I just have one for all the shows I'm going to put in. And then I can just change the time and the voiceover for if it's going to be Tuesday. So now I'm minimizing the amount of work I have to specifically do over each thing. And then what else do I have? I mean, like my motion graphic template. This is just another folder that's like if I ever needed to upgrade, and like update what's going on in here, because Premiere has updates, and sometimes when you update things break. So if I ever needed to update it, I can just go in here, open it, fix what's going on, and instead of having to remake a whole new project or a whole new sequence, I can just fix that. Then I got my actual full-on sequences, which was the one that we watched. So I have like, and here I'll render it so we can see what's going on. Now I have my nested sequence with the shows in there, and then my nested sequence with the tags in there. So now you can see it's like instead of me having to do this for each individual show, they're already set up and they're tied. And these nested sequences are already tied to the specific folders that I have for whatever shows and things that go in. And I have a few different kinds of these sequences that I can do because, like, sometimes, I will have to produce the 103rd one. I haven't got that far, fortunately, but there are enough so where it's like if I had a bunch of shows to put in, I can just drop the shows in, and then I can just go through and just push them out. So this is like, it was a very basic example of just like how organizing your projects can be very helpful, because especially for repetitive tasks, because like for different videos and editing, you'll definitely notice there's a lot of things that you always do, and there's a lot of things that you're going to set up every single time. And what's going to save you time is minimizing those specific things that you're working on. So like when you import your project, when you import your videos, you're always going to have a certain folder for stuff. So setting that stuff up prior so you can just jump right into your edit is going to help you edit faster and not get so burnt out when you're editing something in the first place. So yeah. Well, that's like general overview. We'll go into more detail in like part 2, but just knowing about like a little bit about your project, you're gonna go a very long way with doing that alone. So now we talked a little bit about it, but let's talk some sound design. So the importance of sound design. Sound literally transforms your video or your film or whatever project you're working on from just a flat project into an actual piece of art that will trigger people's emotions, that convey certain information, that teach people different things, that create an experience for your viewer. So like even your little bits of background noise, like sound design, like background noise, music, everything, it's part of the storytelling that's going to really make that video or that film stick. And to kind of emphasize this, George Lucas says sound is half of the experience of watching a film. And honestly, people will watch a bad looking video if it has great audio, but they will not watch a beautiful looking video with trash audio. Just like people online, if they couldn't hear me, they're like, this is a whole lot of information, but I don't care because I can't hear it. So things like that. Like, you just want to know, like, sound is just as important as your video. And even if your video doesn't necessarily look as good, if it sounds great, people are still going to watch it. And then, because you can always improve, you can always get a better camera, but you can never get a better recording. So it's like you could always go shoot a different shot. Can't get better audio if you didn't get good audio in the first place. So that's a good rule of thumb, is like you want to make sure just as much attention you're putting into your video, you want to put it into your audio. So like some key sound elements that you're gonna hear, and really this whole class is a lot about, I'm just gonna get you guys the lingo so you can speak the language, and then when you speak the language you can ask questions, and then when you go to places they'll be able to help you a little more. So like key sound elements, dialogue and voice. This is just primary communication. It's like, who's talking? Are there multiple people talking? Is there only one? Is it a voiceover? That's what dialogue and voice is. And then sound effects and foley. I never understood the word foley, but it is a word in sound design stuff, so we'll put it in there. But it is what creates the reality and the texture. So like birds chirping in the background in the morning, that registers in your mind as, oh, it's morning time. Like you hear birds chirping, you're like, oh, it's early in the morning, and I don't have to tell you it's early in the morning. But then when you see a video of the sun coming up, then it's like it reinforces that idea. But I don't have to. You can hear that in a black video. Like there's a lot of like movies that start off, the screen is black, but you hear birds chirping, you automatically know it's early or it's going to be sometime in the day. So that's just kind of what immerses you first. And then there's music and score. In film, they call it score. In videos, it's music, but they're the same thing. This is what establishes the tone. So like in a sad scene, you hear sad music. In action scene, you hear exciting music. In a horror movie, you hear, I don't know if it's called horror music, but you hear scary music. So yeah. And then of course, to reinforce, your audience will forgive you for mediocre visuals, but they will not for audio. They'll be like, sorry, buddy, I'm not gonna watch it. So editing audio, you'll edit audio in what's called a digital audio workstation, or DAW. I wish we had a better name, because when I hear people say it, I'm like, what? But there's plenty of them, but the main three that I have experience with are Pro Tools, Logic, and Audition. Just like video editing, it doesn't matter which one you use. It matters which one works good for you and makes the audio sound good. Pro Tools, is like for audio recording, is just the highest level. All professionals use it. Everybody's going to tell you, if you want good audio, you're going to go to Pro Tools. But I also know professionals that literally work down the hall that use Logic. So it doesn't really matter. And then, of course, like me, I use Audition. But I also use Logic for certain things. Because also Logic is an Apple product. So unless you have an Apple product, you can't technically use it. So that's where like Audition and Pro Tools and things like that come in handy. Because like I have a MacBook, so obviously I can use Logic. But like for people who don't have a MacBook, or people who just don't want to technically use it, you can use Pro Tools or Audition on any kind of computer. So
is Pro Tools really expensive?
It can be, yes. So like with like all the bells and whistles, yeah, but there's like, I believe there's free versions of it too, but don't quote me, but I believe there are free versions, because I'm pretty sure I've used it before. But yeah.
You ever use Audacity?
Audacity is another one, yes. So I actually use Audacity a lot too. So I forgot to include that one, but yeah, I use Audacity a lot too. So it's just, that's another, because Audacity is free as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's free.
So yeah, it's like, so yeah, I use Audacity too. And so, yeah, it doesn't really matter which one you use, as long as there's every audio workstation has the same tools. It's just you got to know the names of those tools that you're using. So it's more knowing them, because then you're like, well, this one doesn't have this, or this has a different name for that. That's all it really is. So yeah, let's talk about audio editing. So common audio problems you're gonna experience. I get them sometimes, and it upsets me so much because it's like background noise. So in interviews, I know if you guys have ever shot one, or if you guys have ever heard, like you'll hear like a woo, or like fans in the background, or like different, like just air flowing in the background. That's background noise. It's just whatever's happening in the background that's distracting you from who's talking. And this can usually be fixed from like where the mic is placed, where you're filming at, different things, which kind of leads me into number 2 is like room echo and reverb. It's like usually in big rooms like theaters or gymnasiums, especially gymnasiums or auditoriums, like you hear people's voices like echo and you hear like it travel. But in really good audio rooms, like your voice doesn't travel. It doesn't come back to you. It doesn't sound like it just goes all over the room. Like even the room we're in, it's like if there was a lot of echo in here, it'd be horrible to shoot any kind of video or interviews in here because voices are bouncing everywhere at one time. And then like inconsistent audio levels or distorted audio. Whoever did your audio, if it's inconsistent and it's distorted, fire them that day. They had a job, now they don't. It's just you want to have, and it's not always the audio guy's fault, but it is the audio guy's fault. Because like inconsistent audio can come from like my mic is right here, a little bit off screen. You guys can see it here, but like it's a little off screen. It can be inconsistent if I turn and talked only this way, because now I'm not facing the mic. Or like a lapel falls and it falls a little further down their shirt, then it's gonna be, they won't be able to hear the same way. Or like your mic is broken, that can cause it too. Like distorted audio, same thing. Like it's all in mic placement and different things like that. Like like your battery dies or it's dying, it's not going to capture the same level. Like anything can happen, but that's why the person who's in charge of audio is supposed to make sure all that stuff is in order before recording. So they're fired. And then clicks, pops, and crackles. These are a little annoying, but it's usually from like the P's. Like you'll hear somebody like when you hear that like pop when somebody's talking, it's just because the mic isn't covered, or there's not a pop filter over the mic to stop that from happening. But that can usually be cleaned up in post. It usually can. It's not always, but like it also happens when somebody like hits the mic or like smacks a little bit, or like their chain or necklace is like clacking against it. That causes that stuff too. But they usually can be fixed depending on what specifically happened. But yeah, a lot of the time it comes from those P's, and usually if you hear that when you test people's audio levels, tell them to scoot back just a little bit. Like, hey, y'all up in the mic. The mic is like, bruh, please, please, you're killing me right now. Yeah. And then of course, like sometimes audio can't be saved. Sometimes you literally just have to go shoot it again. And nobody likes that. Nobody wants to do that. But as an editor, sometimes you have to make that call and say like, hey, no, we just have to go reshoot this. It's not gonna, like, I've done all I can. Like, of course, try, but like, if it can't be fixed, it can't be fixed. Like, don't be afraid to tell people that, hey, we got to reshoot this. This wasn't good. I've had times where I haven't even recorded audio, and I'm like, yeah, I know we just did that 1 hour interview, but sorry, bud, you got to come back if you want to do it, or we got to refilm it. It's not fun, but it happens. So it's better than giving somebody a video that doesn't have good audio, because what's the point?
I have a question. What's the low cut setting on a recording device?
The low cut setting?
Yeah, low cut setting.
What does that specifically do?
Yeah.
So low cut settings, they basically cut out like the lows. It's like they cut out they cut out like the low frequencies. So like things that are very like deep and rich in sound, it cuts some of that out.
Oh, okay.
So like if somebody has a very deep voice, like people who have deep voices have like a rumble to their voice. So when you use low cut settings, it cuts some of that out. So then it just levels that part out. And then yeah. So did that answer your question?
Yes.
A little bit? Okay, cool. And also once we get a little deeper into this, there are some audio settings and frequencies I have in here. So like you can kind of go off of that too, because everything has its own frequency, and that's where EQ and things like that come in, and we're going to actually talk about that a little bit here. So audio restoration process. So it's a 5-step process. I don't always use all 5 steps. Sometimes I just go straight to sometimes I just go straight to number 3. I'm not gonna lie to you. But usually you want to go from analysis, you want to listen, see what's going on, how does the audio sound, just raw. Define what's going on. Is there background noise? Is their voice very deep? Is there like a lot of lows? There are a lot of highs, a lot of mids? Is it very heavy and those kind of things? And then isolation. You want to isolate what noise you want to cancel, what things you can cancel, and what things you want to enhance. You just want to isolate those different things in your settings. We'll talk about settings a little deeper, maybe in part 2, because that is like a whole thing. That's the whole class. But a good rule of thumb is like a good way to get everything started is you capture room tone in the beginning. Room tone is literally you just hold the mic up, tell everybody to be quiet for like 10 seconds. Now you have, and record the sound. Now you have the room tone. So when you get to your isolation, you can actually just highlight that and cancel, and you can capture what's called a noise print. Then you can highlight your whole thing, and then you can just do noise cancellation. It'll cancel every bit of noise that is in that room that you captured that noise print from your audio. So that'll make your audio sound a little clearer. And then processing, you want to apply like appropriate tools. So like dynamics and equalizers and parametric equalizers and multi-band compressors. Like there's plenty of different tools, but you want to find which tools you want to use for what. So like you want to pull the voices higher. Do you want the music to be lower? Do you want the music to not compete with the voice? Do you want different things like that? So that's where you add those kind of tools. And then fine tuning, that's where you balance everything out. So now that everything sounds good, now you're just kind of like leveling things out. You're making sure things are in a good space, like making sure the audio's not fighting with the music for a certain level, or making sure the audio's not too high on one end and very low on the other. You're just making sure everything's like nice and even. Then enhancement, that's where you put in EQ and like compression and things like that. Like you can pull out a lot more stuff. Like then, yeah, you can pull out a lot more different things, and you can adjust different things and make it sound how you really want it to sound. Like you want it to sound like very like airy and spacious and things like that. Like that's where you can add all that kind of stuff in. So yeah. So understanding like EQ. So equalization, it adjusts the frequency balance by boosting or cutting specific frequency ranges. So this is where you shape your audio to have its own sense of character, and it removes like very problematic frequencies, kind of like cutting out the lows. Like you do that in EQ, and that's where like you can pull down and like, hey, I want to cut out this frequency, but that process you had, now you've like isolated it. So now in your EQ, you can turn that down, turn it up, do whatever it is you want to do with it. And then like key frequency, I don't know why they call them bands, but they're called frequency bands. But like bass, that's the lows. Bass is the bass, and it's like 20 to 200 hertz, and that's like the full like rumbly like richness of audio. It's really just it's the foundation of audio. It's like everything comes from like the bass. So like when you hear my voice, it's like it gets pushed out bass wise. But then you have your lows to your mids. That's the 200 to 800 hertz range, and that's really like the personality of a voice. If I would like how I describe it is like it's the personality of the voice. Like some people have like higher voices, and some people have very deep voices, and it's just like that low area of those voices. That's where like that comes from. So it's like, is it very limited? Is it very strong? That's kind of where that comes from. And the mids is like just that middle area. It's just the presence of the audio. It's like it's how clear it is, and like it's the presence and the clarity in it. It's just like how clear does that come through to everyone, essentially. And then like highs is like the definitions. Like do their voices like have like, do they have a very high voice? Is the music very, very high? Is it like, like how do they articulate words? Like how harsh does that come through? Is it very like clipped? And like clipping is just kind of where, like, I know if you guys ever seen like the little audio thing go up and down, it's where you get to that red area.
Yeah.
Like the highs are when it starts hitting that red area, you want to kind of pull them down, because like that's just like how harsh things are getting. And of course we'll get more into details like all this stuff maybe in part 2. But yeah, and then highs, of course, is like that's the air, that's like the brightness and the, I don't know what sibilance means, but when I'm doing research, that word gets used a lot, and I'm like, okay, great. But yeah, it's just like the airiness, the brightness of sounds, audio, voices, things like that. So, and then let's talk about compression. So compression reduces that dynamic range by controlling louder portions of audio. Basically, when you compress something, think of audio as like it's this big, and you put a compressor on it. Now you're just sending it through a smaller tube. So like before it was coming through this huge tube. Now you're making that tube smaller and cutting out anything that doesn't fit in it. So yeah, to benefit, it makes the audio consistent, but it adds that like extra like punch through it. So like if you're like, I don't want this, I don't know why this audio doesn't sound as full, or like it doesn't hit as hard, that's why you just put a compressor on it and it'll push that audio through a little more. Yeah, and it like to the viewer, to the listener, you perceive the audio a little clearer because now it has that punch to it. So yeah, and like essential parameters, when you're, and this is, you'll see this in like your compressor's settings. It's like you'll see threshold, ratio, attack, release, makeup, gain. These are all just settings that you can control in there. But yeah, like threshold level where the compression starts. So like when it gets to a certain audio level, that's when your compressor is going to be in play. So like if your compressor is at -9 dB, if you record it and your audio is at -9, your audio is like -12, we'll say, or we'll say -6 because it goes opposite ways. Then it's going to cut that -3 out and push everything through the -9. So now it'll be clear all through one consistent area. Yeah, and the ratio, attack, release, again, these are all just different things like how quickly compression engages, how quickly it disengages, and then makeup amplifies the signal after compression to keep it consistent. So, yeah. So like application for processing and compression and things like that. So you have dialogue processing. You can EQ to enhance vocal clarity. You can compress to keep audio and everybody talking at the same level. That's a lot of it. That's what a lot of it is usually used for. It's making audio consistent all the way across. That's all it's always doing. And then music treatment is like you're balancing the music to work with whoever's talking or whatever else is going on, different sound effects. And sound effects, you compress them for impact and EQ to fit. So like you want them to, like, if a piece of glass breaks, you want that glass to, like, you want to hear that crash like strongly. So you compress those so when they do happen, they happen. but you EQ them to fit. So like you want to hear like a regular size glass crash and it sounds like somebody just hit a car. It's like, no, I don't want it to be that strong. But that's just kind of where you fit it in. And then your final mix is always just to glue everything together. It's just to make sure that when you export your project, it all is consistent. It all works the same way, and it's all just smooth and even across. So this is a good like order of processing your audio. It's like a standard thing would be you noise reduce first, then you EQ, then you compress, and then you do your final. And then for dialogue specifically, high pass filter, you DS, and then you do compression, and then you do your tonal EQ. You don't have to do all of that always, all of that specifically. In some compressors and different audio settings, you'll notice they do 2 or 3 of these things for you, so you can just apply one effect and then it works. Like for me specifically, I'll do multi-band compressor and I'll change it to fit like broadcast settings because I do a lot for PPS. So like I change the fit broadcast setting, it adds a high pass filter, it DS's for me, and I can just go straight to noise cancellation. So now like it'll sound clearer for me. Then I'm like, okay, I can hear the noise more effectively now. So now I can denoise. And once I denoise, now it's clear, it punches through, and then I do what's called dynamics processing, but it's just a compressor and it just adds that extra like punch, but also it has like this setting where you can do like smooth vocal stuff and you can just like the voices come in smooth, but the voices come in smoother and they're not as punchy, but it's still just as loud. And then for my music, I just put a parametric equalizer on it and I have different settings so that the music doesn't compete with the voices. So I can still have my music really loud, but so like the music punches through and like they really hear it, but it also doesn't compete with who's talking. So when people talk, it dips under. So yeah. And then so now we did audio, we did video stuff, and talk about motion graphics. So motion graphics are essentially just animated graphic design stuff. We saw them a little bit at the end of the project I showed you guys a little earlier. They're just animated graphic design elements that kind of bring visuals to life. So yeah. Your common use is like you'll see them in titles. So like you'll see them in title sequences, you'll see them in lower thirds, like on the news, you see like whatever news reporter's name pops up at the bottom. Logo animations, if you see like Apple, like whenever they do a commercial, the little top of the apple flips up, that's a logo animation. And then infographics is just anything that's informational that pops up on a graphic in a video. So you'll see them in any kind of video, really. It's just kind of like it's text, it's graphics, it's elements, whatever it is. And elements are usually just like shapes or designs that it's just all in one word. But and then the benefits of it helps enhance the storytelling, increases the engagement, and it explains complex ideas visually. So like Apple is a good example. It's like you see the apple and you know something, like you know Apple is releasing something new or they're doing something cool and technological. And it's like you register in your mind, you start making ideas in your head just from their elements popping up. So different things like that. And just a good thing to always remember, subtle things are always better than dramatic processing of things. Like you just don't want to be, you don't want 1,000 things going on. You just want like get your point across and like be very simple, be very effective in what it is you're using that for. This is a good, well, because we're live on YouTube, I don't want to play the video, but this is a very good video of what motion graphics can do to help tell something, because Ray Dalio, in talking about the changing world order, he actually talks about how like countries succeed and fail. So like how world reserve currencies are made. And it's like, well, you have to learn about an economy, how an economy works, the debt cycle, finances, all these different things, but you can tell he was able to tell all this in like 30 minutes because you can see the rise. Like when you see the rise of something, you just see a line going up, and then you see the fall of something. Now you can understand. It's like, well, we're on the rise. This is what's happening. We're on the decline. This is what's happening. So, like, you guys will get this slideshow. So I would urge you to watch it because it'll teach you a lot, but it's also a very good example of like motion graphics. But because we're live on YouTube, I just don't want to play it because I don't want to get us blocked. But yeah. Yeah.
What file format should the little motion graphics be? Like, what's the best format, do you think?
So the question was like, what file format is good for graphics?
Yeah, to upload it into an editor.
So a good file format, they can be MP4. MP4 is really good. EVC, depending on them, SVGs, PNGs, Photoshop files are very good, or like even the original like edit file, they can take it and make their changes that they need to it. Yeah, but a good like rule of thumb is like, hey, all I have is the motion graphic, and I just want this motion graphic to this one thing. MP4 is good.
Okay.
Because I always make sure that when it's exported, that it doesn't have a background, and yeah, then it'll be fine. Yeah.
Do you use any AI applications to make a like motion graphic custom?
I don't. I use a lot of After Effects, but I have like made some before. Specifically what I've used AI to specifically like make, it's not necessarily a motion graphic, but it's to make graphics. I use AI to make LUTs. So like a LUT is a lookup table, so a specific kind of look. Like I saw the Nosferatu movie and I wanted that kind of color scheme. So I was like, can you make me a LUT to color my video based off the Nosferatu movie? And it made it for me. So now I can like adjust those different things. But like to make motion graphics off of AI, not specifically, because there's actually a lot of templates you can just get that have different things that you can make. And you can, whenever you're working with the editor too, you can just go to the editor and say, hey, just find a template that works. And then they'll pick out something for you that you'll really like. So that's a good like thing to use instead.
Yeah.
But
What software is used to create motion graphics?
After Effects.
Okay.
After Effects, DaVinci Resolve has Fairlight. Why it's called? No, it's not Fairlight. Fusion. I don't know why it's called Fusion. Crazy. I don't like it. That's why I use After Effects. But mainly like After Effects is like the big one of what gets used to make motion graphics.
Okay.
So yeah, like essential elements in effective motion graphics is typography, color and contrast, simple shapes, consistent style, and appropriate timing. So typography is just the text. Color and contrast is the color of the text or the items. And then shapes, circles, squares, apples, pears, oranges, whatever they are. Those are different things. These are the building blocks of whatever it is you're doing. Consistent style is like the visual cohesion. So basically just like, do they match? Like, I'm not going to put like a car and a TV remote. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. They don't make any sense next to each other. It's just like, just do they match? That's all. That's basically all it is. It's like, is it cohesive? Does it work? Then timing, is it paced well? Does it work? Is it too fast? Is it too slow? Can they read whatever's on there? Can they see whatever on there? That's all it is. So like basic motion techniques that you'll see for these different things are the fade in, the scale, position, rotation, opacity. You'll see all of these in whatever editor you decide to make, whatever editing software you decide to make your motion graphics in. They're all going to have these settings to change those elements. Fade in, fade out is like the appearance or disappearance of elements. That's not usually at the beginning or the end. Scale is like I have it wrong in here, but scale is like the increasing of the size and the increasing and decreasing of the size. I'll make sure I fix this in here for you guys because yeah, it's not the same thing. Position, of course, we all know what position is, where it is in the frame, how it moves across the frame, and then rotation, spinning or turning. And then opacity is the actual transparency. So that's where, like, if you don't necessarily want it to be very pronounced, you can turn down the opacity and it'll become a little more transparent so you can see what's behind it. It's like you'll see that a lot with like text in movies, like somebody's talking, you see the text disappear, you can slightly see their face, things like that. So simple workflow for creating graphics. Always plan them. Just like sketch ideas. You don't have to sketch them, but just like plan them. Think about what it is you're specifically going to do. Then, of course, you design them. Like, usually you don't want to just you don't want to jump into your video and then start trying to make graphics. You want to make your graphics separately because, like, it's going to slow down your video editing dramatically. So just making that stuff first. So you want to just design, create your elements first. So like create your text, create your shapes, create your icons, have all that stuff in there. And then you can figure out where you're going to move stuff and then animate them. And animating is just applying movement to static objects. So that's where you apply all the movements or whatever it is you're going to do to them. And then refine, that's where you kind of add your easing and your movement and your slow and your fast and different things like that. Then you export them. So yeah, and then you render them according to the appropriate settings. So like you had asked before, just kind of like, do you want to do MP4? Do you want to do HVIC? Like whatever it is, different things like that. Couple pro tips is like start with templates to learn different techniques. There's a lot of different sites, and if you need them, I can share a lot of different sites that I know. But just start with templates and different things to learn those techniques because you'll see they're very complicated. And just opening those projects in an After Effects, you'll see how complicated they get. But you can just start messing with those controls because it's already pre-built. And then you can kind of see like, do I want to do all this? Or do I want to do this? Do I want to get a template and just put stuff in? Different things like that. And
do you ever use Canva?
Yeah, I actually made this presentation in Canva.
Yeah, I use Canva a lot too. It's really good.
So yeah, Canva's another good one of them. It's like you can animate stuff in it. You can make you can make a lot in Canva. I'll leave it at that. So and then you just want to use like minimal elements, maximum impact. So like you don't need 1,000 things. You just need a couple things that get your point across. And then a good rule of thumb for me is I keep animations under 5 seconds when possible because like 5 seconds is plenty of time to watch a clip or something. So sometimes they need to be longer, sometimes they need to be shorter. It just depends. Like we were talking before, it depends on the situation. But 5 seconds is usually like that good rule of thumb to like start because then you can see like, do I want it to be longer? Do I want it to be shorter? And then, of course, maintain readability. If somebody's reading something, you want to make sure they can read it, even though it's moving. It's like, even though it's doing stuff, like you want to give them time. That's why 5 seconds is usually good because, like, you use minimal elements because, like, you don't want them to try to read a whole paragraph in 5 seconds, but they can read like 2-3 words. So, yeah. And then when you're in doubt, just make it simpler. When it's too difficult, just make it simpler. It'll work better. It'll be easier to kind of navigate it. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid to make things simple. And so next thing is like keyframes. Keyframes it's the points where you start and end the movements, the transitions, the effects. It's just those little small points that you'll see to actually animate and edit different things in certain things and make them happen across a period of time. The purpose, like I was saying, is you just mark critical points where changes occur and to the specific properties that we had mentioned earlier. And then the software automatically calculates all the framing and frames between to create the smooth motion. So that's where your software comes in and it helps you out because like now that it knows where it starts, where it ends, it'll take care of the rest. Yeah, so, and it actually came from just traditional animation where animators actually drew the key poses while assistants created the in-betweens. We don't have to do that now because we have technology. So now it's like I can say I want it to start here, I want it to be at 0 here and 100 here, and you figure out the in-between of how we get there. And I want this to happen across 5 seconds. It's like you put your point at 0 seconds and at 5 seconds, and in between those 5 seconds, it will go to 100 by itself. We don't have to do that no more. Before, we had to do that manually. That's why animation took 6 years, because it's like, well, that one scene took 6 months for us to do. But now we got computers, so we don't got to worry about that. Good keyframing techniques, fewer keyframes, because fewer keyframes are lighter on your computer, and it's actually easier for the computer to follow. It's easier for the eye to follow, and it's just simpler to use. It's just a lot simpler. You can use more, but 1, 2, or 3 key points is perfectly fine. You don't have to use a lot. Easing functions are like easy ease and like just easy ease is like the main one that I use, and it's just like it just makes the transition smoother. It just makes it not necessarily move from straight this way. It makes it kind of ease into it or ease away from it. It just adds more, like, I call it human motion, because like we don't immediately just turn like robots do that, but like we have like a little bounce to us, or like we have a little delay to us. It makes that human motion. And then overlapping action. So you want to avoid having elements like start and stop simultaneously unless it's necessary. Because like if I'm reading something on the left side of the frame and on the right side of the frame, I don't want them moving further away from each other at the same time. It's like I kind of want them to be in the same place. Like if they're going to move, they can move up and down together. They can move right and left together, but you don't want to move away, because if it's like, well, which one am I supposed to read? Because now I'm confused. Now I'm not going to read either. And then like reference real motion. Like if you want to animate a ball being thrown or like a ball moving, like reference how you'd actually throw a ball. Like I'm not going to throw a ball and it's going to move at 100 miles an hour. I mean, unless I'm in the MLB, but then I'm in the wrong profession. So, but it's like even that. It's like if a baseball player throws a baseball, it's like, well, you don't want the ball to move slow. It's like, unless it's necessary, because it's like to emphasize the situation. Then you just want to use real world physics for this kind of thing. Just whatever would happen actually, that's what you kind of want to make it as close to. And then keyframe editing. Keyframes have different curves and things that you can edit and refine. I'll actually show examples of this in part 2, but just kind of getting this in your minds on what it is. But keyframe, they have different curves and things that you can refine and adjust in the software actually, and it's very, very easy. And you just make it look a little more clean, a little easier. These are, of course, common properties to animate. They're very similar. The only one that changed was color and effects. Like position, scale, rotation, color effects, and opacity. These are things you particularly animate. This is the base of animation. Another good few pro tips is just watch your animations back, assess them, make sure they work, make sure they look right. Always double check. Use reference footage. I use a lot of like examples of work I've already done before to make things look the same or look similar or work a certain way. And then remember, good timing always is good. Good timing, if it's timed well, even if it's not that great, it's timed well, so it works. And then start simple, get more complex as you need to be. And then when in doubt, follow the real world. Like, how does it move in the real world? I'm going to try that best. I'm going to try best to make it that way. And then layers and compositions, these are kind of similar. So like when you're working with layers and compositions, they're the containers. Like compositions are the containers that hold everything, and layers are inside of compositions. So yeah, composition settings are usually like how big, the resolution, the frame rate, the aspect ratio. It's all the settings of everything that's going to happen in the animation. And the layers sit inside of that. And then nesting compositions, you're placing one entire composition into another as its own layer. So like whatever happened in that composition in its layers, now you're nesting all that into one thing. You're moving it into something else because you're going to make it even more complex. The benefits of nesting, we saw those earlier with the project that I walked through, is like when you nest stuff, you can organize very complex projects, and you can have multiple effects and different things happening all at the same time, but still very seamlessly. And then you can reuse animations across multiple scenes. You can reuse them across multiple different things, like we saw earlier. And you can make very complex effects through building a hierarchy. Now that's getting into the weeds of things. I'm going to say get a template when you start talking about hierarchy, because then you can see how complicated things are. Because there's parenting, there's so many different things you can do. There's no objects, parent, like there's a plethora of things. It's a class in itself. Yeah. Layers, we talked a little bit about them, but they're literally just the visual elements that are stacked on top of each other that make the final image inside of the composition. So like types of layers you have are content ones, that's images, video, text, and shapes. And you have your adjustment ones, and this is where your adjustment layers go over they sit over a normal layer, and you apply different effects to that. And anything that's below that adjustment layer, all that stuff happens. And whatever effect you apply, it happens to that. Or you can make it just affect that specific layer. But yeah, no objects. They're invisible layers used to control stuff. So like if I want to have everything get bigger and smaller in a situation, I can parent them all to a null object, and I say the null object gets smaller and bigger at this pace at this time, that kind of thing. So you're not animating individual ones. And then there's solid layers. They're just colored backgrounds, whatever that is. And then shape layers, they're just vector-based elements. Don't worry too much about vector, but they're just elements. They're shapes, they're squares, circles, apples, oranges, all that stuff. And like layer hierarchy is just top layers are in front, bottom layers are below. It gets very complicated, but as you edit them, you'll see the difference in like, whoa, this gets very, very crazy. And then layer controls, like you can turn them off, you can turn them on, you can make them less opaque, more opaque. You can blend them, you can transform them, you can add effects to them. Same thing. Layer management, of course, you want to organize your layers. You want to color code them as well as you can. You want to group them in folders as much as you can. And then selection techniques is you just select them. Like you select them, you can select multiple at a time by hitting Control or Command on a MacBook, and then you can toggle their visibility they usually have a little eyeball next to them. Like After Effects is a good example. And if we have time, I might show like one of mine that's very simple. But yeah. And then parenting is like you're literally linking layers to control multiple elements at a time, which is just in After Effects, it's called pick whipping. But yeah, you're just parenting, you're just putting every layer to one thing to do the same thing at one time. And then pre-composing is you combine those multiple layers just into a single composition. Because like in After Effects, you'll see like pre-composed clip, and it's like, okay, just know that is compressing all of those into one single nest. So whatever happened in there, now you can just move that into something else. Then of course, adjustment layers, we already mentioned those. It's just apply effects to multiple layers without duplicating specific effects. It's like you just put it across, add that effect, and it'll do it to anything that's below it. And then best practices for this kind of stuff: make sure your layer structure is planned out and organized. That's the easiest way to put it. Keep some similar elements on like its adjacent layer. Like keep similar stuff next to similar stuff. Use consistent naming conventions. So like name stuff what works best for you. So like name stuff. If it's square, name it a square. If it's circle, name it a circle. And then circle 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever those different kind of things is. And create compositions at the highest quality you need, not that you want. So like, because that's going to speed things up. That's going to make things a lot easier on you in the long run. And then, avoid unnecessary nesting. Like, you don't have to nest everything, just like the main stuff. Like, you don't want to do everything to everything, just whatever you want to do to those specific things. And then just regularly save. Always save. Like, whenever you finish something, just hit save. There's been so many projects that I've done that I didn't hit save, and then it crashed on me and I had to do it all over again. Worst feeling on the planet. Because you're like, bro, I don't want to do this no more. Yeah, it's crashed on me a few times, even on the best computers. And when it freezes and that screen turns white, I'll be ready to throw the computer out the window. I'm like, bro, I don't want to do this now. But yeah, so just hit save, control, Command S. You finish something complicated, Command S. And then, so rendering and output, you actually asked about this earlier.
Yeah.
So like rendering and output, what is rendering? It's to make it simple, it's basically converting your edit into a final thing that can be a video file. But also, like, inside of a project, it's just converting everything to make it so you can watch it back all in once. Like in After Effects, when you play it all the way through, it'll render for you. So now you can, if it slows down or if it like gets choppy, once it's rendered, now you can watch it all the way through before you export. So now, like if somebody's talking, they start sounding like they're speaking in slow motion, it's like because it's not all the way rendered.
Yeah.
So different things like that. But like the purpose is so you can create a compressed version that's like optimized so it can be played on anybody's device, not just in After Effects or not just in whatever software you're using to edit them. And when you render, you do it during editing, which is when you can preview what you're going to do, preview what you've done, and then final delivery, that's when you export it. So you asked about file formats earlier. These are usually container formats and like compression formats. So like normally use MP4, MOV, and AVI. So MP4 is like great for everything. It's just MP4 is like MP3. It's like it's just our standard. It's like what you typically will see a video in. You upload to YouTube, you send it to somebody, download it somewhere. It might be MP4. But a MOV, these are common for like Apple devices. Like if you Apple devices or just like professional delivery, because like MOV, your iPhone shoots in MOV. So when you get a file from an iPhone or from an Apple camera, it'll be a MOV file. Some cameras shoot in MOV too because it's considered professional standard. So that's it. They're just a little bit bigger than an MP4, but similar, doesn't really matter. That's not like the biggest. That's not a make or break kind of thing. And then AVI, I don't usually use these because they eat storage up on my computer like it is. Like it's ridiculous. Like it'll be like 60 gigs of one clip, and it's like I don't want 20 of these. It's gonna eat up all my storage immediately. But they're high quality. This is like good for like movies and films and things like that require you to have all this information, like big editing projects. But just know if you're working with AVI files, they need to buy you a hard drive. Because I'm not using mine. And then like compression codecs. Well, compression is usually called a codec in exporting. But H.264, this is the best balance of quality and file size. This is usually what you're gonna export in. Like if you hear somebody say export in H.264, that's what they mean. Just this is a standard export codec that when you're exporting in Premiere, you'll see. And I can actually show that. Like here, I'll actually just swing over Premiere.
Is there different types of for that file?
Yeah, so like format over here is H.264. You have all these different things. These are just and maybe I can zoom in a little bit. Nope, doesn't want to let me zoom in. I'm sorry, guys. But like you see Apple ProRes, you see animated GIF, AIFF, all these different things. There's a long list of them that you can go down. These are just codecs that you use to export into whatever. And H.264 is basically its file size because could export it in AVI. I'm not doing that because it's going to take 47 years for it to even export. So yeah, that kind of thing.
But yeah. H.264 good quality is good quality, right?
Yeah, H.264 is like across everything. It's the one that's going to be used the most because it's best balance of quality and file size. Like there are bigger ones, like ProRes is like it's higher quality for professional level work, which is like movies and different things like that, like movies, commercials, all that stuff. Like they'll use ProRes, but H.264, you're going to be fine if you export in H.264. You don't really have to worry about ProRes or HEVC because like even professional work, they're fine with H.264. But just know like ProRes, it's higher quality. It's for bigger professional projects. And HEVC is just H.265, which is the next step up. And it's better compression for 4K specific content. So you might see those in like the Netflixes and things like that. And same with ProRes, you might see those for like Netflix and Hulu's and different things like that. But again, like you're probably never going to necessarily need them all the time. Like they'll be very, if they're asking you for ProRes or HEVC, just know they're going to be paying you for that. They're going to be paying for like that kind of stuff because then they're going to specifically mention these things. Like it needs to be exported in these. I've had to do them before for like certain projects, but that was like they give me this long list of stuff that is like it needs to be H.264 and it needs to be this long. It needs to be exactly 30 seconds. It needs to be this. They know what they want. If they ask you for that, tell them to send you a hard drive along with it. So yeah, but like rendering settings made very simple. Resolution, you want to just match your intended display. So if it's 1080p, if it's going on YouTube, even if it's 4K, you want it to be in 1080p because actually nothing you see broadcasted on YouTube is in 4K. It's just compressed because it's an online sharing. So even though it's 4K, you can actually, and when you export something that's 4K and make it 1080p, you're just making it sharper and it'll still register as 4K. Doesn't really matter. So like you can export it and upload it as 4K, but just know it's going to take less time and actually look better on YouTube if you just shrink it to a 1080p file because you can actually just say high quality 1080p and then boom. But yeah, like for stuff that needs to be 4K, like you're delivering a video to somebody, just make sure it matches whatever you want it to match. But 1080p is like standard. Like I work for Rocky Mountain PBS and I have not exported a 4K project in a year and a half. Everything's in 1080p and it goes on broadcast. So it's like, and a fun fact I learned is no movie you see has actually been shot in 4K. It's all in 1080p. Like an Arri Alexa does not shoot in 4K. And that's like $100,000 camera. And you put $100,000 lens on it, does not shoot in 4K. I was like, what? I'm not buying that. But yeah, fun. That was a fun fact I learned. And then a frame rate, do you want to be 24, 30, or 60? It's like 24. Your films are usually in 24 frames. Web stuff is usually 30 frames. It's just like a good balance in between 24 and 60. And then 60 is like if you're doing slow motion stuff. If there was slow motion stuff in there, you want to do 60 frames per second. Yeah, but like it's not like you can't have a 60 frame per second timeline and export it in 24 and it's going to look crazy. It'll still work. It's just usually if it's going for film or you want it to be like a film project, it's usually going to be in 24. If it's going on the web, yeah.
Why is there always a setting like I've used a lot of video editors? It's like 29.97 FPS, frames per second.
Yeah. So actually, good question. So actually, none of these numbers are numerically correct. In a camera, you're going to see like 24 frames is 23.976, 60 frames is 59.94, and then 30 is 29.97. And when you see 24, 30, or 60 frames, just know it's those numbers. Just nobody cares about the 0.9s, the 23.97, because you just round it up or round it down. Yeah, because like it's just a rounded up number, so it looks cool. It's easier to read because I'm like 59.94. I want 60. Yeah. You'd be like, no, it's 60. It's shot at that.
So when you're doing a shot and you're moving the camera, what's the ideal frame rate for that to keep the image clear?
It depends on what it is you're shooting. So it depends on what it is you're gonna do in the edit actually. So like if I'm shooting a cheetah, I probably want to shoot that at 60 to 120 frames or even higher, like 240, because I'm going to intend to slow that down so we can actually watch it. But cheetahs move very fast, so I want to capture all that information because a video, the basic form of a video is, have you guys ever seen that animation of like the sticky notebook and they have the ball bouncing and they just like they drag the note up? So that's basically a video is a bunch of pictures being taken at one time. So 24 frames, you're taking 24 photos per second. 60 photos per second, 30 photos per second. And that's where the decimals and stuff come in because you can't actually take those, but you can take enough.
Okay.
So like when I'm shooting a cheetah and I intend to slow it down, when I shoot it at 240, 60, or 120, I'm going to take some of those frames out when I slow it down. And instead of me losing the information and it looking choppy, I'm just losing like maybe 100 photos per second and it just looks like it's happening slower. But if I'm like shooting a film, I can usually shoot at 24 because now I get that motion blur. Because like you notice if you ever move your hand in front of your face, it's not, you see like a little bit of motion with it, like you see a little blur with your hand. So if you want to capture that, you shoot at lower frame rates. So then it looks more natural movement. It doesn't look like very static. Like film is usually shot at 24, but like news is shot at 60. Because like you notice like a news anchor, they look like clear the whole time and they don't even look like there's any motion to it. It's because they're shooting at 60 frames. They're exporting at 60 frames. But like in movies, you see like when people run by, you see that like blur with them. That's because it's shot at 24 or a lower frame rate. So 30 is a good balance because it gives you that good in the middle range. But yeah, it's like, it just depends on what it is you're shooting and what it is you're editing. So that kind of thing.
Does YouTube allow you to upload 60 frames per second? It does.
Mm-hmm. You can upload any frame rate. Like any frame rate you can upload. The frame rate is more for what the editor, not necessarily the upload. Because when you upload, all they care about is the file size and the type of file. So they care about, is it 1080p and is it 1,000 gigabytes? Yeah. We're not uploading that. Sorry, player. You got to go somewhere else. But for the editor, they're going to care about like, oh, you want this scene to be slow motion. I want 60 frame per second shots.
Okay.
Like, I don't want, like, a good example was I actually had to pick up somebody's project and they shot everything at 24 frames, but they shot an art exhibit and the person that we were working with, they wanted slow motion shots of the art pieces. You try to slow those down, it looks like this. It looks all choppy. So it looks, I'm like, I can't do anything with this footage because it was shot horribly. I can't slow it down. So, yeah. But, yeah. So that's kind of, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then, what was that? Frame rate. So we know frame rate now. That's just kind of like what you want to have in mind prior to exporting, but good note for what it is you're going to export. And then bit rate is where you get, this is kind of where your question is helped a little bit too, is like you want to shoot at a high bit rate, not necessarily a certain frame rate. Like bit rate is going to capture all the quality, and the higher the bit rate, the better the quality. And that's also the bigger the file. But of course, like with more information comes a bigger file. And then audio, 48 kilohertz is in stereo is usually the standard. There's more export options, but you usually don't even have to change this option because it's just set up like that. So yeah, but always test, export a short part, and just kind of watch it back, and then usually you're good from there.
Can a mono audio be 48,000 kilohertz?
I believe so. I don't know specifically, but I believe so. Like,
Okay.
it's kind of like it's kind of up to you. Like stereo is like the standard, but mono works too. And then it's just like whatever you want, really.
Yeah.
But it'll let you know if you can't do it. It'll usually be blacked out when you try to export. But it should be fine for mono.
And then I have a question about bit rate. So I was doing some like action camera stuff, like I was like riding my mountain bike,
Mm-hmm.
and then I noticed with like lower bit rate, I was shooting at 30 frames per second, 1080p, and then like if it was a lower bit rate, it was kind of like a block, type of look. But I guess the higher bit rate kind of made it more smoother.
Mm-hmm.
But then I couldn't use a really high bit rate because YouTube wouldn't allow me to upload it. It said you had to go lower bit rate. That was the highest bit rate they allowed me on 1080p because it'd be like smoother instead of like like blocky kind of.
So high bit rates. Did you just straight upload it to YouTube, or did you put it through like Premiere or something?
No, I edited it, but I kind of left it at its high bit rate settings. What it filmed at, and then it didn't allow me to upload it.
So a good suggestion for that, I would say, is when you shoot at a high bit rate, you can always export at a lower quality because you have all that information. You're taking all this information and making it smaller. So it's just going to make that lower even better. So like I was saying, like with 4K and 1080p, you can always take a 4K and make it fit 1080p, but you can't take 1080p and make it fit 4K.
Yeah.
So if you shoot at a very high bit rate, just know you're going to have big files. When you export, you can export at a lower quality, and it's just going to be crispier because it's instead of like 1080p and that being the maximum picture, it's just going to take all that information and smash it down into a clearer, smaller picture.
Okay.
So just know you can do bigger to smaller, but you can't do smaller to bigger. So But does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, cool. But for tips for faster rendering is like usually for me, if that's all I'm doing, I'm closing everything else. Close all the other applications on your computer because it's gonna help. And then use preview renders. Like the more you preview it through the project, the faster it will be coming out of your computer. Because if it's already rendered in there, it will be like, well, okay, I have a good preview. I can kind of zoom through this now. And then of course, like consider hardware upgrades, SSDs, GPUs, CPUs. The better storage you have, the faster storage you have, the better graphics processor you have, the better CPU you have. It's better. It's like having a kitchen. It's like if I have a restaurant and if I have a kitchen that's this size, I'm not going to push out stuff very quickly. If I have a big kitchen, I can push out hella food very fast.
Yeah.
But it works the same way with hardware. So like the better the hardware, the faster it's going to be. And then like simplify complex effects. Like if you got a lot going on, find a way to simplify that. But if it has to be that way, I mean, just render it overnight. Like for larger stuff, just render it overnight. Let your computer run overnight. Turn it off when it's done. Turn it off. I made a mistake leaving my computer on for a day. Hated myself for it. And then just always test. It's like I can't reiterate that enough. Just test stuff before you export the long thing, because I have exported a project overnight and then woke up the next day, watched it, and it was wrong. Now I'm like, I do this all over again. It's like I could have just watched the small part. So yeah, just do that. So yeah, but that's the end. That's all I got for y'all. Any questions?
Oh wait, with the audio, what's AAC?
Mhm.
What does that stand?
AAC, I'm not specific. I'll look that up for you
Okay.
when we finish here because I'm like, I've seen it, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head because I don't really use it.
Okay.
But I got you. We can look that up after. But
What's the clip you said we can look at? You spoke about earlier. Run it because
yeah, because it's on YouTube. So Ray Dalio's Changing World Order, and you guys actually will have access to this PowerPoint, so you can go through it and you can just actually the link is in there, so you can just click it and watch it. But
okay.
Ray Dalio's Changing World Order, it's all motion graphics.
Is that something that was sent to emails or?
I'm not sure how they'll share it. I believe it's going to be on DCM's resource page on their website.
Okay.
But I will double check for you guys. But I believe it should necessarily be on the resource page on DCM's website. Or you can just check with Austin, Megan, or Drew, and they'll find it for you guys. But yeah.
Do you have any recommendations for making an intro for a video podcast?
A recommendation, depending on how complicated you want it to be, After Effects, especially because we're all DCM members, so we got access to all of it. After Effects is very good for like text, motion, and then just start the project in Premiere, and then start it in Premiere, make any motion stuff in After Effects. And that should get you started.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right. I think we're good. Drew, I think we're all set. Yeah, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Part 2 is like sometime in the future. Is that what?
I teach these classes every month, so next month.
Thank you.